Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki jai. Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju ki jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupad Rashata Rashata Shmad Shri Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Gosai Maharaj Shri Guru Dev ki jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupad Rashata Rashata Shmad Shri Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Gosai Maharaj ki jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupad Rashata Rashata Shmad Shri Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Prabhupāda ki jai. Tadiya Shubha Vyāsa-pūjā Maha Mahotsav ki jai. His 125th Vyāsa-pūjā Mahotsav ki jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashata Rashata Shmad Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Gosai Maharaj ki jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashata Rashata Shmad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Prabhupāda ki jai. Nitila Pravishta Maha Bhagavat Srila Goraksharas Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nitila Pravishta Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Nitila Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rūpa Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rūpa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Shar Gosai Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Raya Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. Namachay Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Vraja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Sarva Abhishta Pradata Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Shri Radha Kund Shama Kund ki jai. Shri Muna Devi Ganga Devi ki jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Purnamasi Yoga Maya ki jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Anant Shri Nandotsava ki jai. Nanda Baba's Maha Mahotsav ki jai. Shri Krishna, Shri Nanda Baba Yashoda Maya ki jai. Shri Daubaya ki jai. Shri Krishna Kanaya ki jai. Shri Rajendra Nandan Shyam Sundar. Shri Krishna Chandra ki jai. Shri Raseshwari Vrishabhana Nandini Shrimati Radha Thakurani ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankit Shri Sarva Vrajvasi Gan ki jai. Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Gan ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shinitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. The speakers are blaring. I'm gonna just close the window 1 second. I'm not sure. Do I have noise suppression turned on? 1 second. Let me just check. I do have it turned on. Okay, that's good. So you can't hear it, but it's really loud. It's too distracting for me. Okay. All right, so I was just walking back from my Gurudev's Samadhi after Arti there, and as I was walking back to my room, I thought, hey, what about reading Nectar of Devotion every day for like in honor of Srila Prabhupada's appearance day today? And then I just came to my room and I'm started, but there is no thought. And so I don't know if this is a good idea or a bad idea. I might already have too many things going on. So yeah, anyhow, I'm just going to begin, but I can't 100% guarantee that I'm going to make it to the end. But yeah, thank you for joining me. I've been wanting to study Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu for a while now, and so I thought this might be just something that could get me into it also. And I also want to do something for Srila Prabhupada because I didn't really do anything today, and today's such an important day, and so I don't know. Yes, Manjari, I can at least read today. I do want to make it to the end though. Let's see. It's like 50 how many chapters? 51 chapters. So, just under, see. All right, so I'm going to begin now. Let's see, the dedication. Yeah, this is the dedication Srila Prabhupada has. To the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipuno Sadharma Samstapako Lokanam Hitakarino Tribhuvane Manyo Sharanya Karo Radha Krishna Padara Veda Bhajana Nande Namataleko Vande Rūpa Sanatana Raghuyago Shri Jiva Gopalako. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the 6 Goswamis, namely Sri Sanatana Goswami, Sri Rūpa Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus they are honored all over the 3 worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of, because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis, and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. Preface by Śrīla Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu Prabhupāda. And yes, before we begin this book, we prayed to Śrīla Prabhupada that it's only through his mercy that just by even reading his words, we can't have access to them. But it's only through his mercy that we can actually have access even to a tiny drop of this Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu, this ocean of the nectar of devotion. So, praying to Śrīla Prabhupada to please be merciful and that we can approach this with the right mood, not just to devour knowledge, but to actually, for this to inspire us in serving and showing us what our aim is and becoming clear how to reach that aim. This book by the Abhideya Acharya, Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī. He is the Acharya for the process. I mean, he's our everything. So for everything, the process, the goal, our sambandha, everything is Rūpa Gosvāmī. But especially he's, he's mentioned as being our Abhideya Acharya. All right, I'll begin. Jai Śrīla Prabhupāda ki jai. Let's sing his pranam mantra first. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtata Deshatarine. I should have started with my with Guru Pranam Mantra. Anyways, I'll do it now. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. I'll do Rūpa Goswami's Pranam Mantra. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Hey, Namo Mahav. This is the pranam mantra that Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī offered to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sorry, 1 second. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusuti Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vaja Shri Krishna Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Pradadevi Satyavatai Namo Namaha Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Preface. The Nectar of Devotion is a summary study of Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu, which was written in Sanskrit by Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī Prabhupāda. He was the chief of the 6 Goswāmīs, who were the direct disciples of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When he first met Lord Chaitanya, Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī Prabhupāda was engaged as a minister in the Mohammedan government of Bengal. He and his brother Sanatan were then named Dabir Khas and Sakir Malik, respectively, and they held responsible posts as ministers of Nawab Hussain Shah. At that time, 500 years ago, the Hindu society was very rigid, and if a member of the Brahmin caste accepted the service of a Mohammedan ruler, he was at once rejected from Brahmin society. That was the position of the 2 brothers, Dabir Khas and Sakar Malik. Let me just make it bigger so you can read it. So that was the position of the 2 brothers, Dabir Khas. Wait, which one is which? Dabir Khas is Rupa Goswami and Sakar Malik is Sanatan Goswami? Yes, that's right. Okay. They belonged to the highly situated Saraswat Brahmin community, but they were ostracized due to their acceptance of ministerial posts in the government of Hussain Shah. It is the grace of Lord Chaitanya that he accepted these 2 exalted personalities as his disciples and raised them to the position of Goswamis, the highest position in Brahminical culture. Similarly, Lord Chaitanya accepted Haridas Thakur as his disciple, although Haridas happened to be born in a Mohammedan family, and Lord Chaitanya later on made him the acharya of chanting the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Lord Chaitanya's principle is universal. Anyone who knows the signs of Krishna and is engaged in the service of the Lord is accepted as being in a higher position than a person born in a family of a Brahmin. That is the original principle accepted by all Vedic literatures, especially the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. The principle of Lord Chaitanya's movement in educating and elevating everyone to the exalted post of a Goswami is taught in the Nectar of Devotion. Lord Chaitanya met the 2 brothers, Dabir Khas, Rupa Goswami, and Sakar Malik, Sanatan Goswami, in a village known as Ramakeli in the district of Malda. And after that meeting, the brothers decided to retire from government service and join Lord Chaitanya. Dabir Khas, who was later to become Rupa Goswami, retired from his post and collected all the money he had accumulated during his service. It is described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that his accumulated savings in gold coins equaled millions of dollars and filled a large boat. He divided the money in a very exemplary manner, which should be followed by devotees in particular and by humanity in general. 50% of his accumulated wealth was distributed to the Krishna-conscious persons, namely the Brahmins and the Vaishnavas. 25% was distributed to relatives, and 25% was kept against emergency expenditures and personal difficulties. Later on, when Sakar Malik also proposed to retire, the Nawab was very much agitated and put him into jail. But Sakar Malik, who was later to become Srila Sanatan Goswami, took advantage of his brother's personal money, which had been deposited with a village banker, and escaped from the prison of Hussain Shah. In this way, both brothers joined Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Let me just check everything's okay. The connection, yes. Your sound is distorted? I don't know. Yeah. If it's distorted, let me know, somebody on WhatsApp, and I can try to see what to do. Rupa Goswami first met Lord Chaitanya at Prayag, Allahabad, India, and at the Dasha Ashwamedha bathing ghat of that holy city, the Lord instructed him continually for 10 days. Sorry, I'm stuttering. The Lord particularly instructed Rupa Goswami on the science of Krishna consciousness. These teachings of Lord Chaitanya to Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī Prabhupāda are narrated in our book, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Śrīla Prabhupada wrote this preface in 1970, as we'll see. Later, Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī Prabhupāda elaborated on the teachings of the Lord with profound knowledge of revealed scriptures and authoritative references from various Vedic literatures. Śrīla Srinivasacharya describes in his prayers to the 6 Goswamis that they were all highly learned scholars, not only in Sanskrit, but also in foreign languages such as Persian and Arabic. They very scrutinizingly studied all the Vedic scriptures in order to establish the cult of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the authorized principles of Vedic knowledge. The present Krishna consciousness movement is also based on the authority of Śrīla Rūpa Goswāmī Prabhupāda. We are therefore generally known as Rupanugas, or followers in the footsteps of Śrīla Rūpa Goswāmī Prabhupāda. It is only for our guidance that Śrīla Rūpa Goswami prepared his book Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu, which is now presented in the form of the Nectar of Devotion. Persons engaged in the Krishna consciousness movement may take advantage of this great literature and be very solidly situated in Krishna consciousness. Bhakti means devotional service. Every service has some attractive feature which drives the servitor progressively on and on. Every one of us within this world I don't need to respond to that. Every one of us within this world is perpetually engaged in some sort of service, and the impetus for such service is the pleasure we derive from it. Sorry, guys. I'm going to turn on Do Not Disturb. There. Okay. So every one of us within this world is perpetually engaged in some sort of service, and the impetus for such service is the pleasure we derive from it. Driven by affection for his wife and children, a family man works day and night. A philanthropist works in the same way for the love of the greater family, and a nationalist for the cause of his country and countrymen. That force that drives the philanthropist, the householder, and the nationalist is called a ras, or a kind of mellow, a relationship, whose taste is very sweet. Bhakti ras is a mellow different from the ordinary ras enjoyed by mundane workers. Mundane workers labor very hard, day and night, in order to relish a certain kind of ras, which is understood as sense gratification. The relish or taste of the mundane ras does not long endure, and therefore mundane workers are always apt to change their position of enjoyment. A businessman is not satisfied by working the whole week. Therefore, wanting a change for the weekend, he goes to a place where he tries to forget his business activities. Then, after the weekend is spent in forgetfulness, he again changes his position and resumes his actual business activities. Material engagement means accepting a particular status for some time and then changing it. This position of changing back and forth is technically known as bhoga tyaga, which means a position of alternating sense enjoyment and renunciation. A living entity cannot steadily remain either in sense enjoyment or in renunciation. Change is going on perpetually, and we cannot be happy in either state because of our eternal constitutional position. Sense gratification does not endure for long, and it is therefore called chapala sukha, or flickering happiness. For example, an ordinary family man who works very hard day and night and is successful in giving comforts to the members of his family thereby relishes a kind of mellow, but his whole advancement of material happiness immediately terminates along with his body as soon as his life is over. Death is therefore taken as the representative of God for the atheistic class of men. The devotee realizes the presence of God by devotional service, whereas the atheist realizes the presence of God in the shape of death. At death, everything is finished, and one has to begin a new chapter of life in a new situation, perhaps higher or lower than the last one. In any field of activity, political, social, national, or international, the result of our actions will be finished with the end of life. That is sure. Bhakti Ras, however, the mellow relished in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, does not finish with the end of life. It continues perpetually and is therefore called Amrita, that which does not die but exists eternally. This is confirmed in all Vedic literatures. The Bhagavad Gita says that a little advancement in Bhakti Ras can save the devotee from the greatest danger, that of missing the opportunity of human life. That's our greatest danger, missing this opportunity for human life. The rasas derived from our feelings in social life, in family life, or in the greater family life of altruism, philanthropy, nationalism, socialism, communism, etc., do not guarantee that one's next life will be as a human being. We prepare our next life by our actual activities in the present life. A living entity is offered a particular type of body as a result of his action in the present body. These activities are taken into account by a superior authority known as Daiva, or the authority of God. This Daiva is explained in the Bhagavad Gita as the prime cause of everything, and in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that a man takes his next body by Daiva Netrena, which means by the supervision of the authority of the Supreme. In an ordinary sense, Daiva is explained as destiny. Daiva supervision gives us a body selected from the 8,400,000 forms. The choice does not depend on our selection, but it is awarded to us according to our destiny. If our body at present is engaged in the activities of Krishna consciousness, then it is guaranteed that we will have at least a human body in our next life. A human being engaged in Krishna consciousness, even if unable to complete the course of Bhakti Yoga, takes birth in the higher divisions of human society so that he can automatically further his advancement in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, all bona fide activities in Krishna consciousness are amrita, are permanent. This is the subject matter of the nectar of devotion. This eternal engagement in Bhakti Ras can be understood by a serious student upon studying the nectar of devotion. Adoption of Bhakti Ras, or Krishna consciousness, will immediately bring one to an auspicious life, free from anxieties, and will bless one with transcendental existence, thus minimizing the value of liberation. Bhakti Ras itself is sufficient to produce a feeling of liberation because it attracts the attention of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Generally, neophyte devotees are anxious to see Krishna or God, but God cannot be seen or known by our present materially blunt senses. The process of devotional service, as it is recommended in the Nectar of Devotion, will gradually elevate one from the material condition of life to the spiritual status, wherein the devotee becomes purified of all designations. The senses can then become uncontaminated, being constantly in touch with Bhakti Ras. When the purified senses are employed in the service of the Lord, one becomes situated in Bhakti Ras life. And any action performed for the satisfaction of Krishna in this transcendental Bhakti Ras stage of life can be relished perpetually. When one is thus engaged in devotional service, all varieties of rasas, or mellows, turn into eternity. In the beginning, one is trained according to the principles of regulation under the guidance of the Acharya, or the spiritual master. And gradually, when one is elevated, devotional service becomes automatic, and it is characterized by spontaneous eagerness to serve Krishna. There are 12 kinds of rasas, as will be explained in this book, and by renovating our relationship with Krishna in 5 primary rasas, we can live eternally in full knowledge and bliss. The basic principle of the living condition is that we have a general propensity to love someone. No one can live without loving someone else. This propensity is present in every living being. Even an animal, like a tiger, has a loving propensity, at least in a dormant stage, and it is certainly present in the human beings. The missing point, however, is where to repose our love so that everyone can become happy. At the present moment, the human society teaches one to love his country or family or his personal self. But there's no information where to repose the loving propensity so that everyone can become happy. That missing point is Krishna, and the Nectar of Devotion teaches us how to stimulate our original love for Krishna and how to be situated in that position where we can enjoy our blissful life. In the primary stage, a child loves his parents, then his brothers and sisters, and as he daily grows up, he begins to love his family. One second, let me fix this mic. There, that's better. So as he daily begins to grow, and as he daily grows up, he begins to love his family, society, community, country, nation, or even the whole human society. But the loving propensity is not satisfied even by loving all of human society. That loving propensity remains imperfectly fulfilled until we know who is the Supreme Beloved. Our love can be fully satisfied only when it is reposed in Krishna. This theme is the sum and substance of the Nectar of Devotion, which teaches us how to love Krishna in 5 different transcendental mellows. Our loving propensity expands just as a vibration of light or air expands, but we do not know where it ends. The Nectar of Devotion teaches us the science of loving every one of the living entities perfectly by the easy method of loving Krishna. We have failed to create peace and harmony in human society, even by such great attempts as the United Nations, because we do not know the right method. The method is very simple, but one has to understand it with a cool head. The Nectar of Devotion teaches all men how to perform the simple and natural method of loving Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If we learn how to love Krishna, then it is very easy to immediately and simultaneously love every living being. It is like pouring water on the root of a tree, or supplying food to one's stomach. The method of pouring water on the root of a tree or supplying foodstuffs to the stomach is universally scientific and practical, as every one of us has experienced. Everyone knows well that when we eat something, or in other words, when we put foodstuffs in the stomach, the energy created by such action is immediately distributed throughout the whole body. Similarly, when we pour water on the root, the energy thus created is immediately distributed throughout the entirety of even the largest tree. It is not possible to water the tree part by part, nor is it possible to feed the different parts of the body separately. The Nectar of Devotion will teach us how to turn the one switch that will immediately brighten everything, everywhere. One who does not know this method is missing the point of life. Who's calling me? Sorry. Okay. As far as human necessities are concerned, the human civilization at present moment is very much... Okay, they're very much human society is very much advanced and living comfortably, but we are still not happy because we are missing the point. The material comforts of life alone are not sufficient to make us happy. The vivid example is America. The richest nation of the world, having all facilities for material comfort, is producing a class of men completely confused and frustrated in life. I am appealing herewith to such confused men to learn the art of devotional service as directed in the Nectar of Devotion, and I am sure that the fire of material existence burning within their hearts will immediately be extinguished. The root cause of our dissatisfaction is that our dormant loving propensity has not been fulfilled, despite our greatest advancement in the materialistic way of life. The Nectar of Devotion will give us practical hints how we can live in this material world perfectly engaged in the devotional service, and thus fulfill all our desires in this life and the next. The Nectar of Devotion is not presented to condemn any way of materialistic life, but the attempt is to give information to religionists, philosophers, and people in general how to love Krishna. One may live without material discomforture. Oh, that means probably discomfort, right? Anyways, my dictionary is not opening. Why is it not opening? Anyways, doesn't matter. One may live without material discomfiture, but at the same time, he should learn the art of loving Krishna. At the present moment, we are inventing so many ways to utilize our propensity to love, but factually, we are missing the real point. Krishna. We are watering all the parts of the tree, but missing the tree's root. We are trying to keep our body fit by all means, but we are neglecting to supply foodstuffs to the stomach. Missing Krishna means missing oneself also. Real self-realization and realization of Krishna go together simultaneously. For example, seeing oneself in the morning means seeing the sunrise also. Without seeing the sunshine, no one can see himself. Similarly, unless one has realized Krishna, there is no question of self-realization. The nectar of devotion is specifically presented for persons who are now engaged in the Krishna consciousness movements. I beg to offer my sincere thanks to all my friends and disciples who are helping me to push forward the Krishna consciousness movement in the Western countries. And I beg to acknowledge with thanks the contribution made by my beloved disciple, Sriman Jayananda Brahmachari. Wow, that's beautiful. My thanks are due as well to the directors of ISKCON Press, who have taken so much care in publishing this great literature. Hare Krishna. A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami, 13 April 1970, ISKCON Headquarters, 3764 Ratseka Avenue, Los Angeles, California. Oh, that's the building my sister lives in. No, she's in 3765. But my parents used to live in 3764. Actually, my parents were living there in 3764, that building. And one day, Srila Prabhupada walked into, my mom was there doing something in the house, and Srila Prabhupada just like walked inside. And my mother was like, and she didn't know what to do, so she just offered pranam. And then she asked Prabhupada, would you like some rose water? And so then she gave Prabhupada, I'm not sure if she gave him just pure rose water. No, she couldn't have done that. Probably water mixed with some rose water. And then Srila Prabhupada drank that, and then he left. Okay, let me check the comments. Amrita, yeah, Amrita means no death. Mrita means death, Amrita means, what is it? Immortal. Immortality, Amrita. How long is this introduction? Oh my God. Okay, let's do this. Usually every Tuesday I do a kirtan class at 8 o'clock. Rup Manjari, would you mind doing me a favor and writing in our group that I'm not doing kirtan today, but maybe we can do it tomorrow? Yeah, thank you. Okay, introduction. Invoking auspiciousness. Lord Shri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, the reservoir of all rasas or relationships, which are called neutrality, passive adoration, servitorship, I'll say the Sanskrit also, Sakya, neutrality, which is passive adoration, Sakya, which is servitorship, Dasya, servitorship, Sakya, friendship, Vatsalya, parenthood, and Madhurya, conjugal love. And then, so those are the primary rasas, and now here are the secondary rasas. And also comedy, hasya, compassion. I don't know the Sanskrit for each of these. Anyways, I think I do actually. No, anyways, I'm just going to read them. Comedy, compassion, fear, chivalry, ghastliness, wonder, and devastation. He is the supreme attractive form, and by his universal and transcendental attractive features, he has captivated all the gopis headed by Taraka, Palika, Shama, Lalita, and ultimately Srimati Radharani. Let his lordship's grace be on us, so that there may not be any hindrance in the execution of this duty of writing the nectar of devotion, impelled by his divine grace, Shri Srimad Bhakti-siddhanta Saraswati Gosvāmī Prabhupāda. And shall we just read that pranam mantra? Because that's the first verse of Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu. How does it go? It goes Akila Rasamrita Murti. Once again, Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu 111. Okay, let's see if we get it. Here it is. Anyways, okay, let's just start. Oh, dang it. Okay, let's see if we can find it here. Akila. There it is. Okay, here. Let's see if I can make this bigger. Okay, let's make this bigger so you can read it. Okay, Akila. Let me try again. Akila. There. Okay. Akila Rasamrita Murti Prasrimara Ruchirudattara Kapali Kalita Shama Lalito Radha Preryan Vidur Jayati. I just messed up. That says Radha Preryan Vidur Jayati. Okay, so that's the introduction. Oops. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī Prabhupāda and of Śrīla Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu Gosvāmī Prabhupāda, by whose inspiration I have been engaged in the matter of compiling the summary study of Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu. This is the sublime science of devotional service as propounded by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appeared 500 years ago in West Bengal, India, to propagate the movement of Krishna consciousness. Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī begins his great book by offering his respectful obeisances unto Sri Sanatana Goswami, who is his elder brother and spiritual master, and he prays that Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu may be very pleasing to him. He further prays that by residing in that ocean of nectar, Sri Sanatana Goswami may always feel transcendental pleasure in the service of Radha and Krishna. Let us offer our respectful obeisances to all the great devotees and acharyas, the holy teachers, who are compared to sharks in the great ocean of nectar, and who do not care for the various rivers of liberation. Impersonalists are very fond of merging into the Supreme, like rivers that come down and merge into the ocean. The ocean can be compared to liberation, and the rivers to all the different paths of liberation. The impersonalists are dwelling in the river water, which eventually comes to mix with the ocean. They have no information, however, that within that ocean, as within the river, there are innumerable aquatic living entities. The sharks who dwell in the ocean do not care for the rivers that are gliding down into it. The devotees eternally live in the ocean of devotional service, and they do not care for the rivers. In other words, those who are pure devotees always remain in the ocean of transcendental loving service to the Lord and have no business with the other processes, which are compared to the rivers that only gradually come to the ocean. Śrīla Rūpa Goswami prays to his spiritual master, Śrīla Sanatana Goswami, for the protection of Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu, the ocean of the pure nectar of devotional service. He prays for the protection of that Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu from the argumentative logicians who unnecessarily meddle in the science of service to the Lord. He compares their arguments and logic to volcanic eruptions in the midst of the ocean. In the midst of the ocean, volcanic eruptions can do very little harm. And similarly, those who are against devotional service to the Lord and who put forward many philosophical theses, is that supposed to say theses? Theses about the ultimate, and those who put forward many philosophical theses about the ultimate transcendental realization cannot disturb this great ocean of devotional service. The author of Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu, Śrīla Rūpa Goswami, very humbly submits that he is just trying to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, although he humbly thinks himself unfit for this work. That should be the attitude of all preachers of the Krishna consciousness movement, following in the footsteps of Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī. We should never think of ourselves as great preachers, but should always consider that we are simply instrumental to the previous acharyas, and simply by following in their footsteps, we may be able to do something for the benefit of suffering humanity. Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu is divided into 4 parts, just as the ocean is sometimes divided into 4 parts, and there are different sections within each of these 4 divisions. Originally, in Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu, the ocean is divided like the watery ocean into the east, south, west, and north, while the subsections within these different divisions are called waves. As in the ocean, there are many different waves, either on the eastern side, the southern side, the western side, or on the northern side. Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu similarly has different waves. In the first part, there are 4 waves, the first being a general description of devotional service. The second concerns the regulative principles for executing devotional service, and the third wave, devotional service in ecstasy. And the fourth is the ultimate goal, love of God. These will be explicitly described along with their different symptoms. The authorized descriptions of bhakti, or devotional service, following in the footsteps of previous acharyas, can be summarized in the following statement by Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī. First-class devotional service is known by one's tendency to be fully engaged in Krishna consciousness, serving the Lord favorably. The purport is that one also may be in Krishna consciousness unfavorably, but that cannot be counted as pure devotional service. Pure devotional service should be free from the desires for any material benefit or for sense gratification, as these desires are cultivated through fruitive activities and philosophical speculation. Generally, people are engaged in different activities to get some material profit, while most philosophers are engaged in proposing transcendental realization through volumes of word jugglery and speculation. Pure devotional service must always be free from such fruitive activities and philosophical speculations. One has to learn Krishna consciousness, or pure devotional service, from the authorities by spontaneous loving service. Rag Bhakti. This devotional service is a sort of cultivation. It is not simply inaction for people who like to be inactive or devote their time to silent meditation. There are many different methods for people who want this. But cultivation of Krishna consciousness is different. The particular word used by Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī in this connection is anushilan, or cultivation by following the predecessor teachers, acharyas. As soon as we say cultivation, we must refer to activity. Without activity, consciousness alone cannot help us. All activities may be divided into 2 classes. One class may be for achieving a certain goal, and the other may be for avoiding some unfavorable circumstance. In Sanskrit, these activities are called pravritti and nivritti, positive and negative action. There are many examples of negative action. For instance, a diseased person has to be cautious and take medicine in order to avoid some unfavorable illness. Those who are cultivating spiritual life and executing devotional service are always engaged in activity. Such activity can be performed with the body or with the mind. Thinking, feeling, and willing are all activities of the mind. And when we will do something, the activities come to be manifest by the gross bodily senses. Thus, in our mental activities, we should always try to think of Krishna and try to plan how to please him, following in the footsteps of the great acharyas and the personal spiritual master. There are activities of the body, activities of the mind, and activities of speech. That's kayaki, manasiki, and vachiki. A Krishna-conscious person engages his words in preaching the glories of the Lord. This is called kirtan. And by his mind, a Krishna-conscious person always thinks of the activities of the Lord, as he is speaking on the battlefield of Kurukshetra or engaging in his various pastimes in Vrindavan with his devotees. In this way, one can always think of the activities and pastimes of the Lord. This is the mental culture of Krishna consciousness. So he went through kayaki, manasiki, and now here's vachiki. Right? Oh, no, it went in a different order. It went through vachiki first, then manasiki, and now it's kayaki. Similarly, we can offer many services with our bodily activities, but all such activities must be in relationship with Krishna. This relationship is established by connecting oneself with the bona fide spiritual master, who is the direct representative of Krishna in disciplic succession. Therefore, the execution of Krishna-conscious activities with the body should be directed by the spiritual master and then performed with faith. The connection with the spiritual master is called initiation. From the date of initiation by the spiritual master, the connection between Krishna and a person cultivating Krishna consciousness is established. Without initiation by a bona fide spiritual master, the actual connection with Krishna consciousness is never performed. This cultivation of Krishna consciousness is not material. The Lord has three general energies, namely the external energy, the Bahiranga Shakti, the internal energy, the Antaranga Shakti, and the marginal energy, the Tatastha Shakti. The living entities are called marginal energy, Tatastha Shakti, and the material cosmic manifestation is the action of the external or material energy, that is the Bahiranga Shakti, Maya Shakti. Then there is the spiritual world, which is a manifestation of the internal energy, the Antaranga Shakti, the Swarup Shakti. The living entities who are called marginal energy, Tatastha Shakti, perform material activities when acting under the inferior external energy. And when they engage in activities under the internal spiritual energy, their activities are called those who are great souls or great devotees. Do not act under the spell of the material energy, but act instead under the protection of the spiritual energy, under the Swarup Shakti, the Antaranga Shakti. Energy is a stored of strength, and this strength can be spiritualized by the mercy of both the bona fide spiritual master and Krishna. In the Charitamrita by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswāmī, Lord Chaitanya states that it is a fortunate person who comes in contact with the bona fide spiritual master by the grace of Krishna. One who is serious about spiritual life is given by Krishna the intelligence to come in contact with a bona fide spiritual master. And then, by the grace of the spiritual master, one becomes advanced in Krishna consciousness. So it's by Krishna's grace that we get spiritual master, and it's by the spiritual master's grace that we get Krishna. In this way, the whole jurisdiction of Krishna consciousness is directly under the spiritual energy, Krishna and the spiritual master. This has nothing to do with the material world. When we speak of Krishna, we refer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, along with his many expansions. I really love how Srila Prabhupada translates Bhagavan, or Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because at first I thought it was just like all full of Aishwarya, but now I'm seeing he's battling against our tendencies to be impersonal, and not think of God as a person. So Krishna is the supreme person. He's a personality of Godhead. He has a form and a nature, and he's personal. Yeah. He is expanded by his plenary parts and parcels, his differentiated parts and parcels, and his different energies. Krishna, in other words, means everything and includes everything. Generally, however, we should understand Krishna to mean Krishna and his personal expansions. Krishna expands himself as Baladev, Sankarshan, Vasudev, Aniruddha, Pradyumna, Ram, Nrsimha, and Varaha, as well as many other incarnations and innumerable Vishnu expansions. These are described in the Srimad Bhagavatam to be as numerous as the uncountable waves. So Krishna includes all such expansions, as well as his pure devotees. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that Krishna's expansions are all complete in eternity, blissfulness, and cognizance. That's Sat, Chit, Ananda. Oops, wait. Here it's different. It's Sat, Ananda, and Chit. Devotional service means to prosecute Krishna-conscious activities that are favorable to the transcendental pleasure of the Supreme Lord, Krishna. And any activities that are not favorable to the transcendental favor of the Lord cannot be accepted as devotional service. For example, great demons like Ravan, Kamsa, and Hiranyakashipu were always thinking of Krishna, but they were thinking of him as their enemy. This sort of thinking cannot be accepted as bhakti or Krishna consciousness. The impersonalists sometimes misunderstand devotional service in such a way that they divide Krishna from his paraphernalia and pastimes. For example, the Bhagavad Gita is spoken on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and the impersonalists say that although Krishna is of interest, the battlefield of Kurukshetra isn't. The devotees, however, also know that the battlefield of Kurukshetra by itself has nothing to do with their business, but in addition, they know that Krishna does not mean just Krishna alone. He is always with his associates in paraphernalia. Actually, my Gurudev, lots of times, he said that we should never worship a picture of Krishna alone, but we should always see Krishna with one of his associates. Yeah. So he is always with his associates in paraphernalia, because Krishna alone is Nirvishesh Brahma. For instance, if someone says, "Give something to eat to the man with the weapons," the eating process is done by the man and not by the weapons. Similarly, in Krishna consciousness, a devotee may be interested in the paraphernalia and locations, such as the battlefield of Kurukshetra, that are associated with Krishna. But he is not concerned with simply any battlefield, battlefield. He is concerned with Krishna, his speech, his instructions, etc. It is because Krishna is there that the battlefield is so important. This is the summary understanding of what Krishna consciousness is. Without this understanding, one is sure to misunderstand why the devotees are interested in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. One who is interested in Krishna becomes interested in his different pastimes and activities. The definition of a pure devotee, as given by Rūpa Gosvāmī in Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu, can be summarized thus. His service is favorable and is always in relation to Krishna. In order to keep the purity of such Krishna-conscious activities, one must be freed from all material desires and philosophical speculation. Any desire except for the service of the Lord is called material desire. And philosophical speculation refers to the sort of speculation that ultimately arrives at a conclusion of voidism or impersonalism. This conclusion is useless for a Krishna-conscious person. Only rarely, by philosophical speculation, can one reach the conclusion of worshipping Vasudeva Krishna. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita itself. The ultimate end of philosophical speculation, then, must be Krishna, with the understanding that Krishna is everything, the cause of all causes, and that one should therefore surrender unto him. If this ultimate goal is reached, then philosophical advancement is favorable. But if the conclusion of philosophical speculation is voidism or impersonalism, that is not bhakti. Karma, or fruit of activities, are sometimes understood to be ritualistic activities. There are many persons who are very much attracted by the ritualistic activities described in the Vedas. But if one becomes attracted simply to ritualistic activities without understanding Krishna, his activities are unfavorable to Krishna consciousness. Actually, Krishna consciousness can't be based simply on hearing, chanting, remembering, etc. Oh, it can be based, Krishna consciousness can be based simply on hearing, chanting, remembering, etc. Described in Srimad Bhagavatam are 9 different processes, besides which everything done is unfavorable to Krishna consciousness. Thus, one should always be guarding against fall downs. Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī has also mentioned in this definition of bhakti the word jnana karmadi. This karmadi, fruit of work, consists of activities that are unable to help one attain to pure devotional service. Many forms of so-called renunciation are also not favorable to Krishna-conscious devotional service. Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī has also quoted a definition from the Narada Pancharatra as follows. One should be free from all material designations and, by Krishna consciousness, must be cleansed of all material contamination. He should be restored to his pure identity, in which he engages his senses in the service of the proprietor of the senses. Hrishikena hrishikesha sevanam bhaktir uchate. So when our senses are engaged for the actual proprietor of the senses, Hrishikesh, that is called devotional service. In our conditional state, our senses are engaged in serving these bodily demands. When the same senses are engaged in executing the order of Krishna, our activities are called bhakti. As long as one identifies himself as belonging to a certain family, a certain society, or a certain person, he is said to be covered with designations, with upadhi. When one is fully aware that he does not belong to any family, society, or country, but is eternally related to Krishna, he then realizes that his energies should be employed not in the interests of so-called family, society, or country, but in the interests of Krishna. This is purity of purpose and the platform of pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness. So that was Srila Prabhupada's summary of Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu verses 1, the Eastern Division, verses 1 to 11. Because the 11th verse of that first section is that verse, Anyabhilashita Shunyam. All right, so that was really nice. I'm kind of excited about this program. Okay, thanks. All right, so I will just end with a little kirtan. And yeah, I think I might do it at this time, 7 o'clock. I'll just leave a little bit early. I'll leave Aarti a little bit early, and then I can just come and read. All right. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Manjari, I did sing Brajajanamana just now, actually, in Buddha Samadhi. Okay, I'll sing that. I'll sing that, and then let me see. Just need to open it up. Let me share my screen again. All right, and tomorrow we will resume our Srimad Bhagavatam reading. What chapter are we on? I think we're on chapter 4, is it? I don't know. Canto 6, chapter 4. Is it chapter 3? Okay. Raja Jana. There it is. One second, let me drink some water. Okay. Oops, wrong one. I'm just going to sing this through, though, because there isn't so much time. Yeah, I want to do other things. So. Shirade Vraja Janamana Sukakari Radhe Shama. Oh, wait, let me turn off noise suppression. That messes up the sounds, right? Shirade Vraja Janamana Sukakari Radhe Shama 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 Vraja Janamana Sukakari Radhe Shama 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 Radhe Shama 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 Radhe Shama 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 Radhe, Shama 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 Radhe, Braja Jana Mana Sukha Kari Radhe, Shama 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 Mor Mukutta Makarat Krita Kundala Gale Vijayanti Mala Charanana Nupura Rasala Radhe, Sham Shama Sham Braja Jana Mana Sukha Kari Radhe, Shama Shama Sham Sundara Vadana Kamala Dala Lochana Bhagi Chita Banahari Mohana Vamsi Bihari Radhe, Sham Shama Sham Braja Jana Mana Sukha Kari Radhe, Shama Shama Sham Vrindavana mein Dhenu charave Gopi Jana Manahari, Shri Govardhana Dhari Radhe, Sham Shama Sham Braja Jana Mana Sukha Kari Radhe, Sham Shama Sham Radha Krishna Mili Avado Gaura Rūpa Avatari, Radha Krishna Mili Avado Gaura Rūpa Avatari, Kirtana Dharma Prachari Radhe, Sham Shama Sham Kirtana Dharma Prachari Radhe, Shama Shama Sham Braja Jana Mana Sukha Kari Radhe, Sham Shama Sham Tum bina mere aur na koi naam Rupaya Avatari, Tum bina mere aur na koi naam Rupaya Avatari, Tum bina mere aur na koi naam Rupaya Avatari, Tum bina mere aur na koi naam Rupaya Avatari, Charanana mein Bali Hari Radhe, Shama Shama Sham Charanana mein Bali Hari Radhe, Shama Shama Sham Narayana Bali Hari Radhe, Sham Shama Sham Narayana Bali Hari Radhe, Shama Shama Sham Shri Gurudev Bali Hari Radhe, Shama Shama Sham Radhe 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 Sham Sham Radhe Sham Radhe Sham Radhe Sham Braja Jana Mana Sukha Kari Radhe, Shama Shama Sham Braja Jana Mana Sukha Kari Radhe, Shama Shama Sham Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Radha, Jaya Nanda, Jaya Yashoda Nanda, Jaya Yashoda Nanda, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Sachinanda, Jaya Gaura Hari, Sachinanda, Jaya Gaura Hari, Jaya Rūpa Gosvāmī, Prabhu Rūpa Gosvāmī, Rūpa Gosvāmī, Prabhu Rūpa Gosvāmī, Jaya Prabhupāda, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Haribol, 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 Gaur Haribol, 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 Gaur Hari, Nitai Gaur Haribol, 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 Gaur Haribol, Nitai Gaur Haribol, 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 Haribol. Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Gandhar Giridhari, Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki jai, Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju ki jai, Nitil Pravishta Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmad, Śrīla Bhakti-rasāmṛta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, Śrīla Gurudev ki jai, Nitil Pravishta Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmad, Śrīla Bhakti-rasāmṛta Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Nitil Pravishta Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmad, Śrīla Bhakti-rasāmṛta Swami Maharaj, Śrīla Prabhupāda ki jai. Tadiya Shubha Vyāsa-pūjā 125th Vyāsa-pūjā Mahamahotsav ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupāda Ashtatarashatashmad, Śrīla Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupāda Ashtatarashatashmad, Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupāda ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Mahabhagavat Śrīla Gorksharas Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Śrīla Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Śrīla Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rūpa Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rūpa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath, Shri Jeev Gopal Patadash Raghunath, Shri Gosai Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari, Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. Namachar Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Kshetra Mandala, Gaura Mandala, Vraja Mandala, Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Sarva Apishta Bharata Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Shri Radha Kund Shyama Kund ki jai. Shri Yamuna Devi Ganga Devi ki jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya ki jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Shri Nanda Baba Yashoda ki jai. Shri Nanda Nandan, Chandra Shyam Sundar, Shri Krishna Chandra ki jai. Krishna Kanaya ki jai. Dao Bhaya ki jai. Baladev Prabhu ki jai. Shri Rishabhanu Nandini Shrimati Radha Thakurani ki jai. Shri Nanda Maharaj Mahotsav ki jai. Nandotsava ki jai. Sorry. Gokul Mahavan ki jai. Shri Kirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Tathāgata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shritai Gaura Premanande Hari Haribol. Shri Guru ki jai. Shri Nectar jai. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa-sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnava Namo Dandavat. Oh, and I just want to show you guys something really quick. These are pictures of just maybe a couple hours ago. I just transported it from my iPad to the laptop. 1 second. Let me open these up. It's so beautiful. How come it's not opening? How come it's not opening? Anyways, you can just see it small then. Oh, there it is. It just was taking some time. Isn't that beautiful? There are no filters here or anything. I just took these pictures a second ago. Yeah, that's Keshavji Gaudiya. This is just right outside of my room. Actually, I went up to the roof to take these pictures. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah, it was pretty cool. I actually missed the beginning of it. It was a lot. It was even more intense for a second, but then by the time I got my iPad and I went up to the roof, it had already turned down a bit. But yeah, it's pretty. There's a rainbow also, a huge rainbow. This is just from my room. That's from my if you see just my balcony. And yeah. All right. Okay, I'm ending the video now. Okay, Haribol, Dandavat Pranams. See you if any of you are coming for a Srimad Bhagavatam reading tomorrow morning. Jai Shri Radhe.